to Talk Time, CEO Insights with Michael Sen. In each episode, we will delve into current topics of today's business world.
Hello to all our listeners and welcome to our very first episode of Talk Time, CEO Insights with Michael Sen. My name is Katrin Kerner and I'll be your host for this podcast. Together with our CEO Michael Sen, we will delve into current topics of today's business world, talk about relevant themes and trends in the healthcare sector, and find out what's on Michael's mind. All right, let's get started. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, Katrin. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Just right before we jump into our topics for today, what would you like to drink?
A cup of tea would be great.
So you are more a tea drinker, not coffee?
I need 1 or 2 shots of caffeine a day, i.e. an espresso. But right now, as we are approaching the afternoon, a tea would be great.
We have a couple of types here on the table, so feel free to pick one.
Okay. I'll take the Darjeeling.
Is there a special reason for picking this one? We had green tea here, herbal infusion, peppermint, and some fruit tea.
Yeah, well, Darjeeling is really something which has some family ties. My parents are originally from India, and both of them have a connection to tea. And usually what we really like is first flash. I wouldn't go for a tea bag normally. First flash, flowery orange pekoe, Darjeeling. That's what makes an afternoon.
You're really an expert in this field. Could have been another career, right?
Yeah, well, I think that one is the right one for me.
So let's jump right into the topics. Something we are going to do regularly on this podcast is take a look at your calendar and talk about where you've been and what you can share with us. So the year is still young, but you have been to 2 major events already. The JP Morgan Healthcare Conference in San Francisco, beginning of January. And just last week, the World Economic Forum in Davos, from sunny California to snowy Switzerland in 2 weeks. Let's start with JP Morgan. Why were you there?
Well, it's really an intense start. When you think about what happens there, it's truly a high-impact industry gathering with numerous opportunity to engage and connect primarily with investors. So we had a lot of investor dialogues. We were there with a team. There was the corporate development team, but also Sarah and Pierluigi had been at the conference. So we kickstarted the year all together. All in all, if I really recall it, I had roughly 30 investor meetings during the conference. But next to the investor meeting, this is a real platform to also engage and connect with other industry leaders of the healthcare sector. Everybody is there, from big pharma to biotech startup, even tech companies were there and gave their presentation. So a lot is happening not only at the hotel, but the entire San Francisco area is basically busy with healthcare in these days. And what I can tell from the conversations I had, and this is really, really encouraging because I went in there knowing that we have great momentum within the company, but the interactions I had with other executives, CEOs, showed me that what we're doing is really not only noted, but also recognized. And with investors, it's all about regaining trust. So within the community, I was happy to see that Future Fresenius is really taking shape, and people encourage us to stay the course.
So when you were talking to industry peers and beyond, what was the most important topic in San Francisco?
Well, the one topic already kind of landing in San Francisco and going out of the airport, the first billboard you see is 2 letters, AI. So I went there one day earlier, and everywhere you look, it's all about AI. And there is no doubt that within the healthcare industry, this is going to be very, very pervasive, and it will be the dominating topic for the next years, offering, if you really look at it, tremendous potential for what is at our core, advancing patient care.
So let's move on to Davos, where artificial intelligence and digitization were also hot topics on the agenda. For probably most of our listeners who have never been to the World Economic Forum in Davos, can you describe in just a few words what it is all about and how it is? What's the feeling behind Davos?
If you really want to have it in 3 words, it's unique, it's intense, and it is inspiring. Look, you have all those leaders, world leaders, heads of states, corporate leaders, startup entrepreneurs in one place. It's almost like celebrity spotting. But on the other hand, there are really intense discussions. And this is, I think, the most valuable thing you can have in these uncertain times. And we're talking and connecting and exchanging about the topics which are affecting all of us. And I came home with a sketchbook full of ideas. So for me, and I hope for the company, it was and is very inspiring.
So AI is definitely a topic you also brought back from Davos, as you already said, and one of the trending topics in the healthcare industry. Why is everyone talking about AI and digitization right now, especially in healthcare?
Well, in general, AI, which I deem a general purpose technology, is at an inflection point where, based on technological progress, mainly compute power, it is at a stage where you will see this technology disseminate and diffuse in a very, very tremendous speed and bringing change. And within healthcare, we're also at an inflection point because there are many reasons where AI can help us. Every use case can be mapped to at least one of 4 outcomes. First, clear, in our case, clinical results, patient satisfaction, healthcare provider experience, and cost efficiency. So if you map it against those, this is a clear pathway to embrace it.
So what is the very first thing that needs to happen from your perspective to unleash the power of AI in healthcare?
Clearly a mindset change.
What do you mean exactly with that? Who needs to change the mindset?
If you listen to all the discussions also in Davos and maybe less so in San Francisco, but it's all about trust. And there's a lot of discussion this morning. I open up the newspaper and what does the general public think about AI? And the bias is more towards there is uncertainty and fear. And at the end of the day, everything we do at Fresenius, it's all about trust, right? Our patients entrust us with the most valuable thing they have. It's their health, it's their life. So AI can be a helpful assistant. It can augment decision making. It can go into personalized therapy planning. Individually, for each patient, think about if we can, make use of the genetic background, the environment, the phenotyping, the lifelong history, that can help. AI can also be a big productivity boost. It can change the entire clinical workflow, make it more efficient, even on operational expenditure, which our clinic in Hamburg has shown with a digital twin by saving energy costs. So AI is not a job killer. It is a general purpose technology which will help to either get to better clinical outcome or more productive so that our physicians, our frontline workers can focus more on what really matters, which is the patient. We're not a technology company. We are actually applying this technology in a setting where a human is most vulnerable. So that human aspect is something we bring into the equation.
So let's assume this mindset change will be managed. What else is necessary to tap this tremendous potential, as you just said?
Well, as I said, the technology is an inflection point with compute power, as in what the machine, what the algorithms are capable of doing. You still need the ingredient for that one, and that is data. So within the healthcare sector, the underutilization of data, it leads to this kind of suboptimal outcomes. So we have to accelerate the integration and effective use of AI in early detection, interpretation of medical data, but also ultimately to reduce errors. Job profiles in pharma, in medtech, in hospitals will undergo significant changes. So the mindset of embracing AI has to be the basis for doing that one. And then there's data quality over quantity. Today, everybody actually, in fact, talks about Gen AI. And one of the, let's say, critics we still have is the hallucination of the system. So it is all dependent on what data goes into the system, what are the parameters the machine is being built on and trained upon, and therefore embracing everything we can do to structure the data to come to a better clinical outcome is of essence.
So sounds like we will hear more about AI in the future, also in our sector. In one of the sessions at the World Economic Forum, you were on a panel about the workforce behind the workforce. Can you tell us more about it?
Sure. This was a session about what we call system-relevant workforce, which really came to light, I think, during the pandemic. Remember, from day one on, we said we are at the heart of healthcare. If I would call it more sober, I would say we are system relevant, because we have seen how important it is to keep the society running during the pandemic. And then at the end of the day, if you want to keep societies functioning, what is the strategic approach? What is the learning of what we've seen there?
Mm-hmm. According to a recent study from the World Economic Forum and the Boston Consulting Group, the gap is huge. I mean, in 2020, the global healthcare workforce amounted for 65 million people, and the forecast for 2030 is 84 million employees. So this means a global shortage of 10 million healthcare professionals, as you just said. Do you have any idea how this challenge can be tackled, and maybe also some learnings from the COVID pandemic that could help manage this challenge?
We have first and foremost to improve and appreciate all those frontline workers and improve their working condition. This involves, further education. When we talk about technology, we talk about training, skilling, reskilling. We talk about better health and safety protection. You've seen this during the pandemic. We have to talk about reasonable working hours, also about flexible models, who stays at home because they also have a family, whether it's mom or dad or someone else. So what can a company offer? What has a society to offer to help the system-relevant workforce to, flourish and give its best, because it's the glue of the society.
So I think we all can see that your week in Davos was quite impactful from one side. But I don't know if our listeners are wondering, but I am. I'm just curious. Who was the most prominent person you met in Davos?
Well, there were a lot of very prominent persons, walking down the promenade or in the Congress Center. I thought meeting Sam Altman was great. Everybody talks about him. Apparently ChatGPT is his baby. It was great seeing him. So I coincidentally at one of the dinner receptions, he was sitting at the table next to me.
And what was the most impressive session you attended?
Well, there were a few, so I don't want to shout on one particular one, but the most impressive ones and the most which made me think are the geopolitical sessions currently, because also as business leaders, yes, we have to do our duty and step up and when needed, and as we did last week when it was about tolerance and also open society and protecting democracy. But there's only so much we can do when it comes to a few things which are on a different level, and seeing all those political leaders, some of them under severe stress and a lot of responsibility they carry around, that was impressive.
So let's get back to business. Fresenius just signed a pledge 2 weeks ago, the Zero Health Gaps Pledge. Can you tell us more about that and the reason why Fresenius signed that one?
Yes, this is a topic which is really close to my heart, and basically one of the reasons I am working in the healthcare sector again. We've pledged to the Zero Healthcare Gap Initiative to really underline our commitment to mitigating healthcare inequality and join efforts with leading global healthcare companies in doing so. You know, health equity is an integral part of our company mission. Advancing patient care. The advancing, yes, in many ways has a forward-looking technological element, but advancing has also a very human, societal element, because it is about access, it is about affordability, making state-of-the-art healthcare available and affordable.
So signing this pledge is one thing, but can you give us also some concrete examples how Fresenius contributes to health equity?
Sure. This was one of the key topics next to us being perfectly positioned to also grab the opportunities of AI, was that this one is at the very core of what we do with Helios and Quirónsalud. We're the number one private hospital operator in Europe. 24 million patients, a dense network of clinics and outpatient. So this is already talking about access. Then take our generic product portfolio, $7 billion of US healthcare savings every year. You know, if you look at the US, 70% of our IV drug units shipped into this very large market are on the FDA's essential medicine list. Sometimes we call it drug shortage list. And this is clearly relevant for people who are in need for this life-saving medicine. Look at our portfolio of biosimilars. We already entered 40 countries. This is making the latest treatment option, the latest modality, available to a much broader set of population. So it's about access and affordability again.
Thank you for sharing these examples and all this data and figures. I think we talked a lot about Davos and the topics that you kind of took from them, but also are relevant to Fresenius. Now, let's have a look on your calendar again. What's on the agenda? What's coming up next?
Well, it still remains to be busy. Quarter one is always busy. We're still in the midst of closing the last fiscal. So we're in the home stretch of closing the books. And then we're preparing already for the annual press conference, where obviously everybody will be looking, what do we say in terms of 2024? How do we operate in this environment? And everybody's curious on that one. So we are preparing for that one. Next coming up, and I really look forward to that one, it will be Norway in Oslo. Our leadership meeting. For the first time, there will be a top leadership meeting with roughly the top 300 leaders of Fresenius globally from all the sectors. Looking forward to that one. And then there's obviously the annual shareholders meeting coming up. And as last year we had Kabi with the Capital Market Days, Helios is preparing for their debut to the capital market. So it's busy and exciting.
Sounds like a very busy year indeed. And I also would like to say thank you. Looking forward to catching up soon on your calendar activities, messages you can share with us. And this is already the end of the first episode of our podcast. Thank you, Michael.
Sure, you're welcome.
Okay, folks, that was our very first episode, Talk Time, CEO Insights with Michael Sen. Thank you for tuning in. I'm looking forward to welcoming you back in our next episode. Take care, everyone, and stay healthy. Goodbye.